Hello and welcome back to Poliver, a BMX podcast with Chris Doyle. Hey, I wanted to let you guys know that there might be a little bit of a lull in these podcasts. There might be a brief hiatus after, not this one, but after the next one. I have this one that's dropping right now. And then I have another one with my buddy George coming out in the not too distant future as well. The one with George is going to look a little bit different. It's going to sound a little bit different. And that's because some of it was filmed and recorded on a private jet, which you'll have to stay tuned to find out more about. And I'll be sure to give you guys more information as that gets closer and closer. But I'm going to be going on this little bit of a hiatus because my wife and I are expecting a son any day. Literally, could go into labor right this second. It's go time. And if you're a fan of funny stories, my son that's about to be born, his name is going to be Sebastian. And I was just over in the UK and I was talking to Sebastian Keep, otherwise known as Baz. And I say to Baz Keep, I say, hey, my wife and I are expecting a son and his name is going to be Sebastian. And Baz gets excited. He's like, oh, that's awesome. Another Sebastian. That rules. What's his middle name going to be? And I said, his middle name is going to be James, after my grandfather. And Baz Keep goes, dude, my middle name is James. I said, wait, so you're Sebastian James Keep? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, we're about to have Sebastian James Doyle. So already my son has a pretty badass namesake. I thought that was pretty funny. Maybe you guys would get a kick out of it too. Nevertheless, what else? Oh, is everyone following Chris Hallman on Instagram? In the last few weeks, maybe the last week, 2 weeks, I don't know, however long it's been, Hallman is posting like the best stuff on Instagram right now. It's like all the hits from, the mid-school generation. And I seriously love it. I wake up every day excited to go onto Hallman's Instagram page and just scroll through and see the new stuff that he's posting. Some days it seems like he's posting like a dozen photos a day, and it's all really awesome content. So I usually don't plug people's Instagrams, but that one's pretty badass. I've been pretty stoked on it lately. I think you can follow him at Hallperson on Instagram. Check that out. Anyways, my next guest up is Morgan Wade. Funny, I recorded this podcast when I was over in the UK for Battle of Hastings. And that's funny because I flew all the way to the United Kingdom to record an interview with a very proud American rider. Morgan and I recorded this interview the day after Morgan did perhaps the two craziest moves of the Battle of Hastings weekend, which I'm guessing everybody has seen by now. The big flare out of the little bowl into the vert wall, and then the big 270 out of the vert wall back into the little bowl. So badass, like classic Morgan Wade riding. And it was funny because I think a lot of people told him that it kind of reminded them of, the Morgan of the days of old. So when I sat down for this interview, I was talking to Morgan about that, and he's like, well, no, my riding really hasn't changed. I just haven't had a reason to ride that way in a long time. So to him, it felt good to be able to just ascend it again. And even though I asked Morgan to do this interview at the beginning of the weekend, I was still a little bit unprepared. So I literally jotted down a few talking points, a few questions, like 10 minutes prior to us sitting down. And even though that was the case, even though I was unprepared, I still like the way the interview went. It's more about like what Morgan is currently up to and what his current life, but we do delve into a few of his old video parts and a few contests and how he kind of like exploded onto the scene in like 2002 and 2003, and I'm pretty stoked with how the interview turned out, even though, like I said, unprepared. But I hope you guys are into it. I hope you guys enjoy it. And this is Morgan Wade. Ladies and gentlemen, Morgan Wade, thank you for being on the podcast. Have you had any kind of like podcast interviews or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done a few. I've done a few podcast interviews.
Oh, really?
A couple of phone ones and a couple of like sit down and fancy setups and do podcasts, and then a couple of some chairs in a conference room and some fancy headphones podcasts.
This is pretty fancy, and Morgan let me borrow his headphones so I could, for quality control purposes, it was better than my stock iPhone.
You look good. You look good before the headphones, but you look good now too.
I appreciate that. So yeah, this is probably the fanciest interview you've done now.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're onto something there.
You got your board shorts on.
I do.
We're
flip flops.
We're only a couple yards from the beach, so it's appropriate.
It's literally a stone's throw.
Literally.
And I'm not talking in how much somebody weighs, because I don't know what that means.
Right. Well, just to let people know, we're coming to you from Hastings in the UK. Yeah. We're out here for Battle of Hastings, which you absolutely crushed it yesterday, which we'll get to in a minute here. But first and foremost, I want to say congratulations on X Games.
Thank you.
That was the craziest, easily the craziest mega ramp contest that I've ever witnessed. I'm in a very fortunate position that I get like front row seats now for all of that.
I feel like they've been ramping up the last couple of years. They've been like steadily getting better and better.
Okay.
Competition-wise and excitement-wise.
To go over your run, which I'll probably post, to hype up this interview a little bit. Double tail up down the drop-in. How far is that drop-in?
So the actual drop is 7 feet down, 7 feet out. Sounds small. It's 7 and 7. But when we're jumping down it, if you watch the footage, it's actually like we're probably jumping like a full sheet of skate light past the drop in, the 50-foot roll in. So it's actually probably closer to 15 feet down.
Okay.
And then 7 feet out. But then there's still like 40 feet of rolling to land in. So I mean,
right. Well, that sounds huge, but when you look at it, and the mega ramp is so huge, like it kind of takes away some of that, right. Like how big that drop actually is.
It's way more exciting from the top.
I'm sure it is. So double tail up in 360 backflip no-hander on.
So I actually went left to right. So it in years past I'd gone on the right side, and it was just a straight 3-flip no-hander, and they come in, just straight down the line to line up for the quarter pipe. But this year I decided I wanted to try to get a little extra on the quarter. Yeah, I don't know if I did or not, but it felt way cooler to alley-oop 3-flip from the left to right, because I was actually traveling like you're pulling like sideways and backwards to get going. So it made the trick feel totally different and way better at the same time.
Right.
And as you know, I like alley-oops.
Yeah. Again, we'll get there in a second. So, and then of course, the big banger, the one-handed double tail whip.
The one-handed will it come back double tail whip.
Which is like, you don't really practice that.
No.
I've
tried it 4 times now on a quarter pipe in my life. 2 were last year and 2 were this year.
And this year's worked out. I mean, the first one, obviously, you bailed, but the second one couldn't have worked any better.
The first one, I didn't take off right, so I landed low in the transition. I got back on pedals, I just landed so low I couldn't hang on, and just splat.
Right.
But the second one, it came in like I couldn't clean that up if I tried to.
And it was so huge. Like the air was big, the tail whips were big, the arm was way back, and it's just like, it looks so impossible to like wrangle it all back together, but then it's like, everything came back.
Yeah, it works. For some reason, it works.
I was like, wow, yeah, Morgan just won this contest. And I think in a lot of people's opinion, you did win. But of course, our Willie took the win, and I'm not taking anything away because he did a pretty crazy run. And one thing I have to wonder is is Mega Ramp as much of a brotherhood as it looks? Because to maybe like give you more of where I'm coming from, before the contest starts, you guys are all hugging.
Yeah.
A few of you are like bowing your heads together. And it's really like, it seems like, okay, we're like going into battle together. Right. Like, let's...
No, it is 100%.
Okay.
Like everybody up there, I mean, there's a few guys that like, we rub shoulders a little bit, but like all that aside, even with the guys that don't get along as well as everybody else, we all have a massive amount of respect for each other, and we all genuinely want to see everyone else stick a good run and ride well. So it is a brotherhood, like you're saying. I mean, like everyone wants to see everyone do well, regardless of any other drama.
Right.
And there's really not that much drama at all, which in the past there's been lots of drama, and now there's not, and it's so nice.
Right. I remember, in those early years of Mega Ramp, there seemed to be some drama here and there, which I don't know enough about, so I guess I shouldn't comment on it too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's BMX is full of drama.
Of course.
There's always going to be someone that's got a different idea on how this should work or that should work or what should happen if someone does this or scoring or whatever. And those differences are just going to happen either way. And then, there's just, sometimes it just boils down to personalities that clash. And it's not that either personality is, one of them's better than the other or not. It's just that they clash and it causes drama.
Gotcha.
And honestly, like, everyone, it's not really that, like, it's nothing now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been around plenty of drama through the years in BMX, and it is refreshing the way it is up there right now. On the deck, everyone is genuinely excited and pumping everybody up. Like, every time someone's about to go, everyone's patting them on the back and giving them high fives and like, you got this, bro. Like, the whole thing.
Keep the positive energy flowing. Yes, because I 100%. Feel like in an event like that, you need that positive energy because it's so gnarly. Like, and we've seen the injuries that come about when people mess up. So I feel like
including this year with
like James Foster.
Yeah, James. Yeah.
That was such a weird moment, especially because I'm behind the scenes now. I know what ESPN's talking about, where like poor James is getting put on the stretcher, but they're trying to put the gold medal around R. Willie's neck, and it's just like, Chris, you need to get in there. And I'm like, I don't know how to react right now. Like, I'm wondering how James is doing. I'm psyched for this guy. Like, but it was such a weird vibe out there this year. But again, I'm glad that James is recovering and he seems to be doing well.
He was on crutches the next day.
Yeah.
He had a rod put in his leg and screws and bolts and stuff. I did.
Baby James, for being like a small guy, maybe he's not even that small, but like he can take a beating.
I think I got like 70 pounds on him plus.
Yeah, most likely. Just your legs alone. Does everyone accept R. Willie? Is everyone cool with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like R. Willie.
Okay.
I really like the kid. He's awesome. He's an amazing bike rider. He's fun to be around. He's a crack up. Like practice. Like, he wants to practice. One of the weird things that over the last few years has been really odd to me is we don't get a chance to ride that ramp. But 1 week out of the year when it was just, the USX games. Thankfully now we've had like Sydney, and then we had Shanghai. Mm-hmm. So we had more time on it the last, I guess, year and a half than we have in a long time. But we really don't get that much practice on the thing. And there's not one just set up somewhere to ride. Like, Woodward's is gone now, and Bob has his, but I haven't even made it out there I don't know how many years. So it's like there's not really access to those things to play on them and just goof off. And so when I get to X Games, I'm like, party. Like, I always said, like, my favorite part of any contest is practice. Because it's just a big session with all the best dudes in the world.
Yeah.
Literally, you get to have however many practice sessions. It's a session with the best bike riders on the planet, or some of them at least.
Yeah.
And it blows me away when people don't practice on Mega Ramp. And I got the last couple years, it's been really weird because I show up and I'm like, let's do this. And I get on the ramp and nobody's riding. And I'm like, practice has been on for like an hour, guys. Like, what's the deal? And, you know, before they would always try to split skate and BMX practice. And every year we're like, yo, like, anyone who wants to skate, come skate with us. Like, we don't care. And then like if someone wants to ride more, like we'll ride with the skaters. Like we all get along with the skaters too. Like there's no headbutting with the, like, even so, like we were talking about, like amongst the BMX guys up there, there's not even any drama with the skaters anymore up there. And it's just like everyone gets along. We're all bros at the top of the hill. And it's the same energy with those guys too. Like, I mean, we're pumping those guys up the same as they're pumping us up in practice and during the comp. They're watching our comp, we're watching their comp, you know, and like it's awesome. It's really a cool community, but it's a very tight, small community, but it's cool. But we have like open practice now, like all day, skate and BMX combined. So it's like you get out there and there's like some skaters skating, but there's no BMXers, and I'm like, where are the BMXers at? Like, and it's usually. Like Michael Aaron loves to ride, but he's like, I mean, he was doing like double duty and triple duty last year.
Yeah.
Like, so like he was stretched real thin. So like he was really like prioritizing his time.
Yeah.
So as not to burn out. And you know, like Curtis would, like, we had an amazing session like the whole time. He rode practice the whole time last year, and he rode a lot this year. But you know, and Ryan like rode quite a bit of practice this year because he was like, I mean, eye of the tiger. Like, you know who that kid is. Like, he's got the eye of the tiger.
Well, yeah.
But like, it's fun because we actually had a legit session, and like that's the difference. Like, there's some guys show up and like they're just focused on like, what do I have to do to win? And that's all they want to do is just, I'm only going to practice what I have to do to win right now. And like that's where like the personality issues come in, because it's like, man, just have fun, you know, like you're stressing yourself out, like, relax, you will have fun, you will ride better, like if you just relax.
Right, if you have like that positivity within you and you're just like stress-free. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I mean, you know what it's like. It's the same thing. It's the same thing when you're riding trails or a dirt comp or whatever. I mean,
yeah,
if
like,
you relax, you ride better.
Yeah,
I've always felt that way.
Oh, of course. If you're stressed out, like, no, it can definitely change your whole session. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to, we'll kind of jump off Mega Ramp for now. But I was really,
that's fine.
I was interested to know if people like really accepted our Willie. That was like, because.
I think so. I mean, there's definitely been quite a bit of, I've seen quite a bit of online hate towards him, because for some reason people have trouble accepting that he rides a scooter also. I don't see how that in any way changes how good he is on a BMX bike, because he's phenomenal. Like, the dude can shred a scooter, whether you like it or not, and he can shred a bike, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't really matter where he comes from. I mean, he does like, you know, quote unquote scooter tricks on a bike, but that's kind of what's helping him out a lot right now, because it's something that's kind of new and fresh in as far as X Games goes. Like, they're seeing like, what is this trick? No other BMXers is doing this trick, and we're like, yeah, it's because it's a scooter trick. But like, it's still exciting. It's still cool, and the fact of the matter is, he can still do it, and it's wild looking.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I got no issues with it.
Right. Okay. The front flip flare that he does, like, it's so gnarly. And again, I get front row seats.
Here's my gripe. Here's my gripe with Ryan. Get your foot out of your tire, dude. Come on, man. Like, and he knows, because I've told him, like, what are you doing? Get your foot out of your tire. Like, that's probably the craziest thing anyone did on the ramp.
Was like,
sticking your foot in your back tire to slow down on the roll-in. And he didn't do it on the roll-in with the drop-in, but when he would roll in over, like, before the drop, he would skid with his foot in his tire. Like, oh my gosh, that's so squirrely, dude. And then he lands on the jump. He does some wild, like, the bike's fling or whatever, gets back on, and then he lands and sticks his foot in his tire again before the quarter. And he's like getting all squirrely, and you're just like, oh my gosh, he's gonna die. And then like, he just goes to the moon. But like, it's one of those things where, like, a perfect example is Shanghai. He did not touch, he went full pull.
Okay.
into that front flare at like 18 plus.
Yeah.
So it was up in the stratosphere.
Gnarly.
It was in the kitchen. In the words of Big Daddy, it was in the kitchen.
To be able to think that fast, to like be able to like put your foot in your tire, like it's easy just to go like this, like if you have brakes, which he's brakeless, but to be able to think like, oh, I need to put my foot in my tire real quick to slow down. Like I could never think that fast. Like that, like you said, that might have been like the gnarliest thing.
I mean, Hoffman tried it one year and it didn't work. It did work multiple times, but one time it didn't, and it was bad. And that's the one thing I don't want to happen to Ryan.
Gotcha. Okay. So, silver medal, congratulations.
Thank you.
Here we are, Battle of Hastings. This is the first park-style contest that I've been at, that you've been at
in a while,
in a long time.
It's been a while.
And yesterday was like classic Morgan Wade, like two of the gnarliest tricks to go down that day. Like
there was a lot of hammers in that room.
So this podcast obviously is going to come out later, but right now the internet is going nuts. Like, you know, the dig posts, the RBMX, then like countless other riders, like the flare into the wall from in that bowl that you're coming out of for that flare. What is that, like a 3-foot bowl?
Yeah-ish, 3.5 maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't got the tape measure out. It's a little guy.
It's a little bowl. Like there's not a lot of transition to work.
But it's kind of nice because it is a pretty far gap, and a mellower like lip into it makes it easier to make the distance.
Okay.
So from that perspective, it's nice.
Okay. Okay. And then in best trick, the alley-oop out of the wall back into that bowl. Like that was like your section of the course. Like, you know, like
last night at the Nora Cup party, somebody was like, "Man, you just like honed in on one section of the course and went nuts." And I was like, "It wasn't my. I had other stuff I wanted to do too. Trust me." Like, I wasted is the wrong word. I used all my runs, all 3 runs on one trick, and you know, of course, we came in like dead last in the park thing, which is fine. I expected that, but like, you know, it was worth it to pull the trick because like. It's not always about what place you get.
No, absolutely. And especially for a contest like this, people will be talking about what you did for like years to come.
Right.
Similar to like Metro Jams and Backyard Jams, a lot of those contests where you really did shine a lot because even though I think you won a lot of those, like,
I won one of them, the Singapore one, the Metro.
You only won one Metro?
Won one Metro.
Why do
I got second. I got second or third at the rest of them I entered though.
Okay, Gary.
So I was always on the podium. But
you, Gary, and Josh Harrington were always like right in there. Yeah. But those were so fun to watch because like you always had a handful of clips like in props or wherever that was like the gnarliest stuff that people still talk about. I have it in my notes here, which we'll get to in a second again. But like, so I wanted to kind of apologize because you did the alley-oop into the bowl yesterday, and you also did the flare. And I remember telling you last night, I was like, oh, it reminded me of like old Morgan. And then like, I think we walked away and I felt kind of bad. I was like, that was kind of like a dickhead thing to say. Because your riding really hasn't changed that much. It's always been throttle pinned.
Yeah, I'll be 100% honest. I still ride the exact same. I have nothing's changed in that area. I just don't have a reason to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like yesterday was a really good reason to do it, and it felt good to beat myself up. That sounds weird, but it like typically like if there's something that like. If I pulled both those tricks first try, it would not have been the same energy.
No.
Not even close. But on top of that, if I pulled both those tricks first try, then there's probably something bigger I should have tried.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is, like, when you're really pushing the limits of something, of your limits, that is, when you're pushing your own limits, I mean, it should take a few tries. And unfortunately for me, that usually means eating crap and like getting, leaving blood streaks in the bowl and stuff like that. But it's kind of like if you ain't crashing, you ain't trying. Like, you know, one of those things.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like it feels good to like be in that zone, which I haven't had an opportunity to like really do that in a long time. So it felt really good.
Well, maybe that's why it kind of reminded me of.
I wasn't offended by that comment. By
No, I know you weren't. But I was like, because people have said stuff like that to me before, and I'm like, well, I still ride like that. Like I'm still like the same guy.
Old Chris would have done it.
Yeah, old Chris would have, hurricane or whatever. Fill in the blanks wherever you want. But yeah, I was like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't have said that because Morgan hasn't changed at all. But yesterday had that like that feel that used to go down at like Metro Jams and back.
Well, that's how I took that, because like that, it's been a long time since those events were even happening. Period. And then fast forward even farther, it's been a long time since I was at an event where something like that was possible, for that scenario to happen, where we had like the energy and the crowd and everyone watching was a BMXer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or somehow closely associated to a BMXer, if not a BMXer. And that doesn't happen at the big events like X Games, because X Games target audience, the people who come to see those, there's a ton of BMXers there, but it's mostly just, average people in the city, the average Joe American or China, Shanghai, or Aussie, whatever, that are able to make it to the event or maybe travel to come see the event, but they're not necessarily into like a sport as like a core deal. Yeah. They're just kind of like, oh, extreme everything. Like, I'll watch the skating, I'll watch this, I'll watch that. Like, it's cool to take it all in.
Yeah.
So that's like a whole different, like, it's just a different atmosphere. So like the fact that was available to even happen, that's what hasn't happened in a long time, and that's old Morgan. So
okay,
that's how I took it.
Okay, well, perfect. So I'm glad I didn't offend you. But shout out to the Source and Battle of Hastings for putting on this event.
100%.
Getting everybody together, and
BMX needs this. BMX needs more of this. Lots more of this.
Right. It was just so cool. Everyone like mobs you in the bowl after you pull the trick, and everyone's like going nuts, and that was like, it definitely brought back some of those old feelings that we used to get on a more regular basis.
Correct. Yeah.
But I feel like ever since you came on the scene, like you came in super hot. There, of course, was the Road Fools 5 clip where you have like every pad imaginable.
Oh yeah.
And they come. Was that your local park?
Yeah, it was my local park.
You did the Alley-oop 5.
The Alley-oop 5.
Well, like Simon Tabron or something crazy, man.
Yeah,
Jamie on
Murray.
chest protector. Some kid.
That's such a great introduction to Morgan Wade. Like that was like perfect. What a perfect way to like start gaining some sort of recognition. Like I remember when you were like really blowing up, like around like 2003, and like everyone's like, he's that kid from that clip, because like everyone watched Road Fools. Like those were like the most popular videos. I was like, oh, he's that dude. Wow,
the guy.
Okay. But what was that? There was was it a Roots Jam? And I think Scotty won.
Mm-hmm. Those Roots, yeah.
And maybe, did you get second?
Yeah, I got second.
Okay. That was when I first started noticing you. When I was like, oh, that dude is something special. Like he's
that was when I was doing like the super whips and stuff, and that was kind of like newish. Other people were doing super whips. I didn't invent that, but like I had my own twist to it, which stood out, and that's why people still are like, oh, that's signature, whatever. But
right.
That's kind of where that started, because that was the first time I got like photos in magazines and stuff. My first ever photo in Ride magazine was from that contest.
Okay, so
and my second photo ever in Ride magazine was from that contest. It was the next page, so I had the middle, like the middle page, like that you could pull out or whatever. But it was like both pages, Superman seat grab over the hitching post rail, like the coping hitching post.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's sweet. And you turn the page, and there's a picture of me doing a flip whip over the spine. Fun fact, that was the first time I ever flipped a spine.
Oh.
And I was just like, it's in the contest, I'm hyped. Same scenario, all the people watching, I was like, I'm gonna flip whip, ah! And I landed like manual, and I manualed down the other side of the spine, and like 12 feet on the flat, just like throttle grip, just like, I got nothing. And then I looped out and exploded, right? But the photo made the magazine, and it said it was Scotty Kramer.
Well, Scotty was a young flip whipper
Oh,
himself.
dude, he flip whipped over the hitching post that I Supermaned over. So
That was a real like
it was wild.
like
It was
changing
so
of the
wild.
guard. It was like, okay, these guys are coming in now. Like, but even maybe prior to, it might have been around the same time. You had a little write up in Dig.
Yeah.
It was their loose cannons.
Loose cannon. Sandy Carson put a loose cannon.
Was that before or after Roots?
Before.
Okay. I mean, I only got my information. I mean, there wasn't a lot going on the internet, but like, you get all your information from videos and magazines.
Yeah.
And I was such a BMX geek that like, of course I would notice.
All of us were, dude. Like,
Yeah.
we were all like cover to cover every magazine. Like,
Yeah. So I instantly, like, me along with everybody else started noticing like, okay, that dude's he's gonna be trouble. He's coming in, you just came on the scene. It's like, I'm Morgan, I'm here to shred. Did the loose cannon title ever like bum you out?
no. I'm pretty hard to offend or bum out.
Okay.
So like, I don't, dude. Like, stuff bounces off pretty easy. I'm pretty easygoing. Like, I here's the other thing too. Like, I dish out a lot of crap to my friends. A lot. I'm a big crap talker. Whenever it comes to like just hanging out and shooting the shit, whatever. Like, I dish it out, but I can take it. That's the whole thing. Anyone that dishes out a lot of crap but can't take it doesn't need to be dishing out crap. But I can take just as much as I can dish, so like, it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I don't care. Now the loose can, that was funny though, because there was a whole bunch of like kind of back and forth about that between I think it was Z. Whenever we did my ride interview, he kind of made mention that, you know, like, I wasn't a loose cannon because everything was calculated or whatever. And then I remember like him and Sandy kind of got into a little like, because Sandy did the loose cannons article and was like, hey, wait a minute, and then it just kind of like went back and forth for a little while. But
Two vegan photographers just battling it out.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered if that had offended you at all, because you never really got a lot of credit for being super dialed, actually. Like, I've seen you do things first try that shouldn't be possible. Case in the tail up to ice pick on the 7-foot fence in Singapore.
That wasn't first try.
That wasn't first try. Dude, you got to make it sound like it was first try. I'm trying to give you.
In Singapore, it was first try.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In Singapore.
But I had tried that at other metros before that and just gotten tatered.
Wait, so I'm correct. In Singapore, it was first.
It was first go in Singapore.
Okay.
It was at like, look, we did all the runs and it was like last trick, and I was just like, yep, back in.
Okay, that's where my memory goes when I think of the tail up to ice pick on that fence. Is I
Right.
think of Singapore, and you just like, boop, done.
Now, tail up to ice picks, like, I obviously learned that trick because of Dave Frymouth. Credit where credit is due.
Your teammate this weekend.
Yes.
Okay.
I was so stoked to be
Yeah.
through the roof. Anyway, he also taught me over tooth and back on spines and things. So
Okay.
more credit to Dave Frymouth. But that trick, like, I could be pretty close to dead asleep and do that trick probably.
Wow.
So that's not too far of an exaggeration. Like, that trick is like, I mean, it's like second nature. It just feels, if I can ice pick something, I'm pretty sure I can whip to ice it.
Wow. Okay.
So whenever if we session much in the future and I do that trick, you'll probably notice if I go up to like a sub box and I do an ice and then I come back, I'm probably going to do a whip to ice next go.
Okay.
I usually do ice it once and then whip to ice.
What a crazy trick to have like in your back pocket like that.
It's cool.
And I feel like
it's fun to have stuff like that.
The tail up to Fufanu too. Like, you can do pretty
Those
regularly.
are a little less dialed than the ice picks, because the ice pick is more room for error, but the Fufanus are obviously more precise.
Right. Of course.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, like, the thing is, like, you have time between the quarter and the sub to float up to it.
Okay.
So then just imagine, take it apart and just do a tail whip in that time. As long as you get your feet on.
But you have a quicker. Everyone tail up's a little bit different. Like, you have a quick whip.
I do. Now, when I do bunny hop tail ups, it's like no bunny hop. It's like,
It's weird. You kind of like drag off the ground.
Yeah.
I've always noticed that, like,
Yep.
whereas like a guy like Aaron Ross bunny hops as high as he can.
I feel like if I would actually bunny hop before I did the tail whip, I would be way better at bunny hop whips. But instead, I just hit my shins all the time, so I don't do them that often.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I just wondered, like, if you're like, well, I'm not that loose of a cannon. I mean, like Brian Kaczynski, when he films Street Parts, it looks crazy. Like, oh, you're crazy, man. But to him, he's always like, well, to me, it's calculated. I'm taking a calculated risk.
Yeah.
Is it like similar with you as well? Like, you're in control, even though it might look crazy to someone that doesn't ride like yourself.
I won't try anything I'm not like pretty dang positive I can do. It's within my wheelhouse. Like you're not going to see me try something that I'm like, there's a 10% chance.
Okay.
Like I'm pretty, usually if I'm trying it, I'm like pretty dang sure that it's going to happen, in my head at least. And sometimes it doesn't work out the way you thought first go, and you're like, yo, let's regroup. That's not a good idea. So like that does happen every now and then, but for the most part, like that 270 the other day, like that was like, I was like 95% like this will work. Like that in my head, like 95, but that 5% is why I stared at it for so long. Like we had 30 minutes of warm up, and I stared at it for like 30 minutes, and I would take a speed run, and then I'd get out and I'd stare at it, and I'd go to another angle and I'd stare at it. Because of that 5%, I'm just like, oh man. So then I start going through like, okay, what could go wrong? How could I get out of it if this happens, if that happens, whatever. So like it is calculated, because like I am going over scenarios in my head of what could possibly go wrong. What do I have to do to make this work? All that stuff. And then the first go, if you see like footage of the very first attempt I did, I popped and jumped off almost immediately because I had no clue where I was. And I was like, am I going to land on the sub rail? Am I going to land on the deck? Am I going to make, where am I? And then I jumped off and I looked and I was like, oh, and I went right into the tranny where I wanted to be. And I was like, my body made it. All I got to do is hang on my bike now. And the second try, I hung on a little longer. And then I had to kind of fine tune it to where I got the correct pull and the pop, and when it happened, it happened.
It definitely looked like every slam that you took, you learned a little something from it.
A little, yeah. And then I'd regress a little bit on one of them. I would like push farther than I was supposed to pull, and then I'd land somewhere else, and I'd be like, crap, I know what I did wrong.
I actually said that on the commentary where I said, like, if he maybe carves a little less but pulls a little bit more, I think it's
100%.
Yeah,
that was the key. And the last one that was like the whole storybook ending, it was just like, this is gonna be on the buzzer. I heard Daryl say that when I dropped in. I was like, oh please, this would come on. Like, and I literally took off and I angled up. Like, I mean, before I was going more angle, like you were saying, like far distance wise, I angled up and I just yanked as hard as I could. And when I did that combination, it went like several feet higher, first of all, which as soon as you're in the air, you kind of know, like, okay, we're in the right zone here. And sometimes obviously there was a couple where like I barely tagged and I crashed that I probably could have pulled had I been an inch farther. But like that one, as soon as I took off, I was like, there we go, that was it.
Yeah.
And then it's just a matter of hanging on and waiting.
You couldn't have landed any better, especially being again a 3-foot transition, like a small ramp. Like,
yeah, if I had landed lower, my front wheel would have hit flat. If I had landed higher, I would have cased. So it was a picture. It was a fairy tale ending.
Fairy tale ending. Well,
then I got a beer dumped in my head, and it was great.
That's always nice.
Yeah,
especially for you don't really drink that much, do you?
No, not very much. And honestly, it's not that I don't drink. It's that I don't like drinking.
Okay.
I don't really like the taste of beer. So if I'm gonna drink, if I want to drink, it's because it'll be fun to have a buzz and just kind of like loosen up and have a good time. I'll just pound a beer, like, because I don't really want to taste it too much.
I got you.
Coors Light's good for that because it's kind of like water.
Tapping the Rockies.
Tap the Rockies, or shots of whiskey. That does the trick too.
Okay, but having it dumped all over.
So we do whiskey, but yeah, dumping it
doesn't really do much for you.
In the moment, it was. I mean, it's a compliment.
Yeah.
So like, I take it as that fully. I don't know who did it, but like, hey, I accept the compliments.
That was like the high fives.
It was. I mean, and it's like, when that starts happening too, here's the other thing, like when drinks start getting thrown, it's almost like, okay, it's over because now there's beer all over the ramps. So it's kind of like, that the exclamation point.
Yeah. There's not like 3 more guys left to drop in. Like, hey, what about us? Like
No, I'm gonna slip out, bro.
Yeah, we got to ride through Morgan's beer that was dumped on him. Thanks, guys.
Thankfully, the buzzer went off right after I landed.
Yeah,
so.
that's like you said, like storybook or BMX storybook ending. Like the clock's winding down. It's 4, 3, 2. Yeah, that was intense. That was
like the circus, just like the circus.
Nice.
Intense.
Again, classic Morgan Wade. That's how I should have phrased that compliment. I should have been like, it was classic Morgan, not old Morgan.
My guy.
There we go. But so obviously yesterday was a big success. I mean, you won best trick.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't sure. I saw some of the other tricks. I mean, that was in my head that was up in the air. But like I don't know about everybody else. But like I also have done stuff like that before, so maybe I have a skewed perspective on it.
Okay.
I mean, dude, there was some wild stuff that happened here. I don't like. Here's the deal. I'd hate for that trick to outshine any of the other stuff that happened because so much gnarly stuff happened.
Yeah. And
it's just like, that was an unreal contest.
Right.
It was literally unreal. I mean, I was going through like, the old Graham this morning, just kind of catching up, and I was like, man, I just started saving videos of the other guys and stuff. It's like, I want to post these. I want to post all these. I don't want to just be posting the crap that I do, because this is so crazy.
Like Boyd Hilder did the Smith bar in.
There's a video of that I saved from the back angle, and I'm in the foreground because I was getting ready to take another run when he did that. I'm on the deck in the foreground, and literally, like, what I do with my hands explains exactly what everyone in that building was thinking. I just went, like, what? What the crap?
He made it look so easy too.
Dude.
It's like boom, boom.
Oh,
it's like nothing for him.
That and freaking Matt Ray's 720 double truck.
Yeah.
He's like butter, and then he goes, "Oh, I'll land now." Puts landing gear down, and then he lands, and then he goes, "Oh, let me just half cab out of this."
Yeah.
It was so dialed, like
high too.
High,
so high,
smooth, dialed, like intentional. Everything about it was intentional.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. There was way more too. That's the tip of the iceberg. Anyone that's listening to this that hasn't seen it, watch all of it.
Well, again, this is going to come out like months.
I know, but there's definitely going to be people that probably haven't taken the time.
I think it's been one of the best, best trick contest was one of the best series of moments this year. So it'll be definitely good to highlight that.
Yeah.
One thing I want to highlight while we're talking about it. Have you ever talked much about your video part and Drop the Hammer? Because, and I asked that because that going back to Battle of Hastings, you did that alley-oop into the bowl. It reminded me of the alley-oop that you did in Lot 8 in your part in Drop the Hammer. And then I started thinking about that part more. Again, I wrote my notes down this morning. So
I'll tell you this right now: the Lot 8 one was sketchier.
Yeah, we were talking.
It was not as difficult, but it was way sketchier.
It looked like a combination of like gnarly and super technical. Like
it was I think precise. It was you have to go fast, you have to go high, and just yank and then be precise where you land, because there's that doorway right there on the landing.
Yeah, and it's a far drop down. And how did you get that first try?
No.
Okay.
So wait a minute, hold on. I got that 1, 2, third try, I think. No, I got it second try. I could be wrong. Walter's probably going to listen to this and be like, "No, I remember I was filming." But I think I got it second try. First try, I'm pretty sure I overshot and landed at the bottom of the wedge and did the front wheel bounce to lose the bike type of thing. And then second try I pulled it, but sorry, Walter. Well, he had the fisheye, and he went around, and when he came around, he went right into the wall, and it just it wasn't it wasn't fully his fault because the motion he had, he turned and it was just right there because he just didn't realize it was gonna be right there. So then he was just like, oh, he felt bad. He was like, yeah, I gotta do it again. And I was like, all right, I'll do it again. And then the next try, I feebled down the side of the wedge, which was terrifying because there's the landing. For anyone that's unfamiliar with this, the landing goes up and then there's like a sub box that's directly above a doorway next to the wedge landing. And it's literally, I have like 3 feet maybe. The window was like 3 feet on the edge of that wedge to land in because there was a wall right in the way on the other side.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just didn't pull back enough and just did like a grind down the thing. And it was like, I had to go change my pants figuratively.
Yeah.
But and then I got it the next try, but it worked.
I was there a few weeks later after you had done it, and someone was telling me like, "Oh, Morgan pulled from here and he landed in the wedge here," and I said, "No." And like, I literally didn't believe. I forget who was telling me about it. I'm like, it might have been like a camper or something that was like telling me about it, and I'm like. Nah. Like he must have done something else.
That kid, no.
Because I'm like, that's not possible.
He's a loose cannon.
If you look at it, it's like, nah, that's not possible. But then when I saw the clip, I'm like, wow, like that. That was one.
It does work.
I don't think enough people talk about A, that section, and B, that clip. Because that section was, it was all hammers. Drop the hammer.
I have a Nora Cup for it, so
no big deal.
Pretty stoked on that.
I'm glad you brought that up yourself because I was gonna mention it, but we just had Nora Cup last night, and you won video part of the year for that.
Yeah, that was like a video part of the year for that, and then I got ramp rider of the year that same year.
So you got 2 Nora Cups in one night.
Those were my first 2 Nora Cups.
How many have you won overall?
3. I got ramp rider of the year the next year also.
Okay. Gosh, so and then last night you were presenting Transition Rider of the Year.
Yeah, which was awesome. That was a real I was stoked when Fudger called me and asked me if I'd be willing to do that. As like he calls like, would you be willing to present the award? And I was like, so I guess I didn't win it, right? He was like, no, of course I didn't win it, but like. I made that joke and it was crickets last night. I was like, oh man, this is hot in here. But yeah, no, it was an honor to do that. I mean, that's
a pretty big compliment.
Man, I know, like that, and that's exactly how I took it. I was like, holy crap! Like, I never thought that. You never think about that type of stuff, especially back then, like, because all the dudes that get to present those things are like the dudes, like holy cow, like. This guy's doing it, like you got like Hoffman and like that whole genre of guys, Wilkerson, like all those dudes, and it blew me away that I was essentially put in that class by being offered to do that.
Okay.
So that's how I took that. It was a major compliment for me.
It's kind of like icon status,
Whatever.
So you won video part of the year for Drop the Hammer, deservedly so, and I suggest everyone. I'm gonna when I put up these interviews beforehand, I'll spend like a week like hyping them up. I'm like, I'll put up Drop the Hammer, just so everyone is reminded of like the impossible feats, like the rail in Colorado.
Yeah,
the one that like snakes around.
Yeah,
I love the look on your face when you pull it. You're just like, or did you?
I went. Yeah, I like landed and like sat down. I was like, whoa!
You had that bushy hair.
Oh yeah,
and everything.
Yeah.
Classic Morgan.
Classic. I went back and tried that again.
Why?
A couple of years later, because it had rail stoppers all the way down it, and I wanted to see if I could do it. And I got to the bottom of the second turn and stopped.
So it was like, like the
every foot there was like a little like 1/4-inch nub that was actually kind of like, it was like a smooth nub though. Those what are those bolts called that have like the square on the bottom side, so you can't take them off from the top. So they like stick in and they bolt from the bottom or whatever. It was like that, but they were welded in, so it had these little nubs every foot down it. So you jump on it, it would be like, and it would actually like bounce like you're on like train tracks or whatever. And I literally made the first turn, made the flat, and started leaning and made it within like 2 feet of the bottom of the rail and came to a dead stop and just fell over.
Only you would.
I just thought it would be cool to do it with rail stoppers too.
Right. Anyone else would have looked at it and been like, I did it before. Like, too bad it's rail stop. Now no one else can do it. But then you tried anyway. That's, yeah.
You know, every time I've been back to Baldy on that same note, I've looped Baldy every single time I've gone back. I think I've done it about 8 times now.
Dude, that's crazy.
It's fun. Like, why wouldn't you? You're there. Like,
you know, it seems way crazier to think about, but when we saw you do it, I was like, oh, it doesn't look that bad. It looks like you just kind of hang on for the ride.
Oh, Baldy?
Yeah. Or just a full pipe in general when you loop it.
I mean, I don't want to give all my secrets away, but yeah, it's real easy. It's just a head game. Everything's a head game. Like, it's scary. Yeah, it's real scary because, like, you're going upside down. You're over concrete. You know, a lot of things that could go wrong. But if you break it down to what it actually is, it works.
It looked like nothing more than like carving a bowl corner or something like that.
That's all it is. It's going through a berm. It's ripping through a berm that's just like, whap, you're just doing it vertically instead of horizontally.
Well, because we have this thing in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like this big cone. It's like something they used for steel manufacturing back in the 60s and 70s. And it's no longer used. And it's you ride it like it's a full pipe. And it's just kicked back enough to where you ride it and it feels kind of like how I would imagine a full pipe.
It's oververt, right?
No, it's not oververt. I'll have to show you a photo.
Right.
So picture it's a cone that comes out and you can like ride this part of it and it's just slightly angled.
Uh-huh.
Once we're done here, I'll show you a picture.
Well, the top would be oververt then. It's not like that. It's like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, it is.
Yeah, this part's oververt. That's what I'm talking about.
But you can ride it like a full pipe. And I've always thought, like, if I can do that, I could probably do a full pipe. And then watching
you can do a full pipe.
You guys can anyone with, mediocre talent do a full pipe? Yeah? Yeah? Oh, wow. So everyone watching is going to go out and just like start hucking. Because I always picture rooftop. Remember when he tried the loop? And he just bails out at the top and he does like the backflip.
I've had some spirited debates with Rooftop about that clip.
Okay.
Because I have some experience with loops.
Yeah.
Not one of those kind of corkscrew style ones. So that could be the only area that there could be like an off thing. He maintains that he went so fast that he just like blew off the back or whatever. I maintain that he looked and looped out.
Like he
leaned back.
Like he got upside down and then like
yeah.
Okay. You have to like kind of keep your head down.
He came off the top. I'm sorry, Rooftop. I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm not. I love you, but you fell from the top to the bottom. If you're going so fast, you just slid around. I've slid around. I've done that before. I've blown off the back and slid around, and you just go. Whoosh, you just keep going.
Yeah.
We can debate this more later, Rooftop.
Well, you're a huge fan of Rooftop, though.
I am.
I remember at Woodward
West. I was
West,
hanging out with him last night. It was amazing.
CFB the qualifier for X Games.
Yeah.
CFB Woodward West. You had the sign. Rooftop is on fire.
Rooftop is on fire. I drew a little picture of him and like the coping on fire because of his video part where he had the ramp on fire at the volume warehouse.
Yeah, he lit himself up.
Yeah, lit himself up.
I love Rooftop. Like.
Homie was lit.
Obvious and cheesy.
Hey, nice. As is Rooftop.
Dude, me and Rooftop have a funny relationship. Like I love the dude, and I believe that he loves me as well. But we're constantly like talking smack to each other.
Yeah, you got to dish it and take it.
So, competition success.
Yeah.
Especially in the years that I've written down. Like 2003 to like 2008, maybe 9, kind of seemed like the Morgan show. It was like, if there was a contest going down, you knew that you were going to be there, you were going to be throwing down, it was going to be fun, it was going to be exciting, and you were probably going to do really well.
The way that I always approached contests, and still do, is kind of like an all or nothing type of thing. I have like I find a few things that I know I want to do. I figure out which one is going to take the most energy, and I do that out of the gate because that's when I got all gassed up and I'm not tired or out of breath. And then it's kind of like, okay, that worked. On to the next. And you just kind of go work your way through, rather than doing like a run over and over and over and over again. I mean, most people could probably figure out what I'm gonna do based on watching practice, but it's not like verbatim. Like there's a lot of guys that will practice their run to a T, all the tricks, everything, every time. And those are the dudes that have done really well, and they're very consistent in like, the big major like Do Tours and X Games and stuff like that, because they are just dialed. Everything they do is just like, because they do it a million times. But I kind of like there to be that, like, I guess that it might not work factor.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I would like it to work. I'm not trying to like hinder myself in the contest, but at the same time, it's like, I want to do that, but I don't want to practice that. If I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it. Like, and the same thing here at Battle Hastings. Like the flare transfer and all that stuff was like, I want to do it, but I'm not practicing it. Like, and I had a handful of other things that I was wanting to do too that I balled up in practice that were not on the same exact obstacle. I did want to use the entire course. I just didn't really get a chance to because I got stuck on the first thing.
That's all right.
But it is what it is. But like I've always kind of been like that with contests, where it's like, hey, it's either gonna work and I might win or get top 3, or it's not gonna work and I'm gonna get towards the back of the pack last or whatever. So like that's kind of, and most of the time I end up somewhere in the middle because some things work and parts of it work, and I'm able to salvage some of the run, and I still do decent or whatever. So
well, you did. And I don't know if this is your biggest win of all time, but would you say winning Park at Gravity Games was one of your biggest wins?
Definitely. That was, I mean, like, as far as like events go, that one was probably like, I'd put it at the top of the list, yeah.
Okay.
Because that was like, I mean, everyone was there. It was like a big major event that like I was very familiar with, and like, I mean, I also won the LG Action Sports Championships in Dallas.
Oh yeah.
Not to take anything away from that one. I mean, the prize purse was bigger in Dallas, but not to take anything away from that event, but Gravity Games felt bigger.
I think Gravity Games was bigger
Yeah.
at that point. I mean, it's an NBC event, and the crowd was huge, and like you said, every pro was there.
Yeah.
And the payout was good. Was it like $30,000 for first place or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Which I always thought that was some of my who got second at that contest.
Nyquist,
like the contest guru.
Yeah.
Like you're like kind of a young kid coming in, and like you're kind of considered this loose cannon, but you put together a full park run that beats the best in the world. It was like
and then I stopped. I took the glove off.
For the bike flip.
The bike flip. That was a freshie.
You had the bike flip pretty dialed too for a minute there.
Yeah.
Did you ever successfully pull the wall ride to bike flip?
Nope, not a once.
Because I remember you getting close at a few of the Metro jams.
Real close. I only ever tried it at Metro. The only places I ever tried it. Like the one time was just like it was the first Metro I ever went to. It was the Vancouver Metro in 2003, I believe. And it was just kind of like an afterthought. Like the comp was like, we were done. But you know how those comps go. Like it was over pretty much, but people were still trying last tricks. And you do your last trick and then you're like, cool, I did it. And you're looking around and there's still other dudes doing their last tricks and you're like, oh, I got another idea. And then you try something else. And like that's just how those comps worked, and that's what creates that environment that everyone's just like feeding off each other and like the crowd and everything, and they just run long. I assume it'll be that way tonight with the finals here at Battle of Hastings.
Yeah.
But and I was just like, oh man, I wonder if I can wall ride to bike flip, because I think I did a wall ride to tail up or something, and then I was like, and I got really close. And then it was just like, oh snap! And I tried it a couple more times, and I remember I like almost ripped my nipple off on like a screw head or something, and I was like, I'm done. I slid down on my chest, just like down the ramp, and it was like, I legitimately thought that I tore my nipple off, so I stopped.
Bummer.
Yeah, bummer. And I tried it again the next one or whatever in Toronto, and like hurt my ankle or whatever. So I was like,
I remember that. Now, of all like the contest success that you had, was there like one contest in particular that stands out? Like, I talked to Biz we did a podcast earlier, and he was saying how like, ironically, it was Gravity Games of Y2K, and he's like, yeah, I was just having this day where I just felt like I couldn't mess up. Like everything was just working, and it was just like in the zone. He was young, and he did really well. He got like third place, and he was a relatively unknown kid at this point, and how that like kind of skyrocketed. And was there like one or two contests that like you think really maybe solidified you a little bit more? Or was there like, I guess I'm kind of asking two questions, or was there like a contest like that where you're like, I can't mess up? Like everything's just boom, boom, boom.
Early on, it would have been Roots Jam. Like the last year, 2004, it was the last Roots Jam. That was like, I won that one. This was obviously the year after the one that Scotty won. And like that one, I just, what you're saying, like as far as like solidifying that, then that same year I went on to the CFP at the Enterprise in Woodward West. And it was just like, that was my favorite park at camp.
Right.
Across the camps, favorite park. And I was just like, this is my jam, I can pedal in here. And it was like, Mach 10 everywhere. Loved it. So like, though, as far as solidifying, like kind of like how I rode and if I had a place in BMX or whatever, I would think those. If I had to narrow it down to one contest where like the all-time favorite like would be X Games 2006. Pink bike with all the pocket airs. Down in the bottom of the tennis court. It was the one with the roll-in to the huge hip thing.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Scotty won.
Won. And that was the one where like, literally I was just like, I can pocket air literally across the park here. And I tried it once and the wall almost broke when I hit it. So I was like, Nate, we got to put some boards. So he was like, I'm on it. And he put a bunch of like bracing behind the wall. And then I pulled it in practice and like,
I'm on it, Morgan.
I'm on it.
You can do the pocket now.
Dude.
I totally forgot about that X Games. Because I remember sitting and watching. I was in the stands, and I remember you and Scotty. I'm like, the kids are still doing pretty good. So yeah, that was really cool. Because I don't remember you doing a ton of like tricks. I mean, of course you did tricks, but it was like more about how you used the course.
And that's always been kind of like my thing. Like, yeah, you can do tricks and I can do all the box jump tricks and stuff, but like I prefer to find something nobody else is going to do. And that's why I love riding with Drew Bezanzin, but I hate riding a contest against him because we see the same stuff and we want to do the same gaps. And it's like, oh man, I wanted to be the only person to do that. But man, it's so fun to watch somebody else ride like that.
Now, you mentioned Drew, and you guys, I think, are cut from the same cloth, in a sense, in that...
He's just more dialed.
Well, but you're both... You guys both like having a good time.
Yeah.
But you guys are both pretty competitive, too.
Yeah, that's it.
Was it like, in a contest atmosphere, was it all fun and games, or were you kind of like driven by that competitive atmosphere?
No, the only time I can think of where the competitive thing really played a role that I was aware of at the moment was it the second year of Dew Tour in Louisville? It was in the qualifying. I like did a run and qualified. I was in second place after my first run, and then Mira went and he was in first place, and then I was like, I want to beat that. Like, it was just like, I just got like that. And I was like, I had some stuff saved for finals that I was going to do to spruce up my run. And I should have just left it alone and been like, all right, I'm in, we're good. But I was just like all hyped up and I was like, oh man, I can do this. So then that was like, I had this big wall drop I started the run off with, like into a big like wedge thing. And so then, of course, like, I did the tail whip drop in instead of just the drop in, and then I did like just a little bit extra bells and whistles in the same run and qualified first. Only time in my life I ever beat Dave Muir in a contest, and it was qualifying at that contest. I then got my butt kicked in finals which means Dave Mira actually beat me in the contest. So I've never beaten Dave Mira in a contest. Fun fact. And the only time I got second place at an X Games in a park and Scotty won, Dave lacerated his liver that year and couldn't ride.
Oh, okay, yeah.
On that big hip.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I look back and I'm like, man, like that's always kind of like been like a fun memory for me about Dave. Like, cause I was like, yeah, he's the only pro in a park competition from my era that I never beat.
But that makes
I like that though.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, that's pretty cool actually.
It's like to me that's special.
That's really special. Yeah.
So.
Because I mean, he'll always be that guy.
Yeah. He always has been, and he still is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's a good story. Injuries.
Lots.
At the same time, for the slams that you've taken, it doesn't seem like you've ever been like that jacked up.
I always tell people the first thing that you should learn how to do if you want to be a pro BMXer is learn how to crash.
Okay.
Learn how to crash. You won't get hurt as much. You still get hurt, but if you are aware that something is going wrong, the ones you get really broke off on are the ones you don't see coming, you're very aware of.
Yeah.
Like you don't expect, you're like, yeah, I got this, and you're loose, and you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden your back tire just clips, and you go, wham, and then you're just like, you wake up and you're like, what happened? Where are my teeth? Like, like those are the ones that you can't see coming. But for the ones you can see coming, learn how to crash, learn how to jump off your bike, learn how to hit and roll, learn how to like maneuver your body in the air so you don't land on your head, you land on your elbow and you get a swellbow instead of, teeth missing or whatever.
You had mentioned that earlier with that alley-oop from Battle of Hastings. Like, you're like, okay, what could go wrong? And when things start to go wrong, how am I going to get out of it? Like, so to be able to, the ability to crash, I think is a huge thing for people to know how to do. Because I'm sure I know people that when they fall, they just break like glass. I mean, I have a friend that like, he quit riding a few years ago because he's just like, I'm so tired of getting hurt. I'm like, because you don't know, like every time you bail off your bike, it's like you become like a wet noodle and just
like. I feel like, like on that same note, like then there's those people that I feel like don't know how to crash, but they're just tough as nails. Like Brian Kaczynski, for example.
Okay, yeah.
Every time he crashes, he lands on his chest. I'm like, dude, like, don't land on your chest. But he's like, and then he gets up and he's like, and then he keeps going.
He's just so tough.
Yeah.
Like, he can just withstand.
Awesome. So it works out. It evens out.
But you're kind I mean, you're pretty tough yourself. Like,
I got a high pain tolerance.
Right. So like today, after the slams you took, we're eating breakfast. Everyone that came in, how you feeling today, dude? How you feeling? And you're like, I'm a little sore, but I'm good. Like, it seems like
my sore might be different than everybody else's sore. I don't know. I can't feel what other people feel, so I don't know.
I don't ever hear about like, long-term injuries with you or anything like that. I've never heard like blowing out a knee or an ankle.
So I've had like I tore my PCL before, which I had to wear a knee brace for about a year. I couldn't do tabletops, and that was like that was not fun.
Okay.
Tabletop's my favorite trick.
Interesting to know.
Period.
For all the stuff that you can do. Like
tabletop, you can't beat a classic. Get wrapped up, bro. You know how it is. I've never been able to get the tire burn because I don't do tables that way. I don't do like the invert style where the tire comes back here and hits. I do like the one where it gets up here in front.
Okay.
But like, I love that trick. You can't go wrong with that trick. If I could get away with doing one-handed tables on Mega Ramp, I would never do another trick on the quarter pipe other than a one-handed table. It's comfortable. It feels good. It looks better than everything else, in my opinion.
It looks rad when you do.
And like, you can't go wrong with that. Like, it's classic.
Yours are different too, because like the hand kind of comes off first, and then the one hand does all the work. Whereas most guys will like go into the table and then take the hand off. But you're like,
so I can't really do it very good on like anything smaller than like, I haven't really been able to do that trick even on like a vert ramp. But like Mega Ramp, it's just so much time. On the way up, you literally, I stand up, if you watch it, I straighten my legs and do a one-hander on the way up. and then I just turn my body and fold.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you stand up and do a one-hander like this. You're just like literally straight on the way up. And then as you turn, you just twist your knees and your hips and it folds.
I'll give it a go the next time I'm
and
blasting.
Then you can chill there for a second. And then you just go, and it pops back out and you're pointed straight down.
If you say so, man. That sounds, like I said, next time I'm riding the mega ramp,
Seems legit.
I'll give it a go.
It feels great. I love that trick. But I hurt my PCL and I couldn't do that any tabletops for that matter. I couldn't even barely start to turn, and it was rough because I had this huge knee brace on that kept my knee feeling like it was in one piece. And thankfully though, the muscles, I was able to strengthen it and not have surgery. And
that's fantastic.
Wean off the brace and I mean if I move my shin will wobble if I'm relaxed, but if I tighten up, it's rock solid.
Okay.
And that's my doctor was like, yeah, your muscles will compensate for that one. So
okay, great.
And I've had ruptured spleen, broken scaphoid, my hand, my wrist. The same crash. That was that Brazil mega ramp crash.
Oh right, yeah.
That's the only X Games I've missed in the last since 2003 was because I couldn't ride because of the spleen.
Right.
And then I've had quite a few. I've had some other bad ones, but for the most part, I get off pretty easy.
Again, for the slams that you've taken, for what we've seen,
I got strong bones.
it's you're pretty solid. I forget.
I do have a little more not to sound jockey or anything. I got a little more muscle than most guys have. I'm a bit stockier than most of the riders.
You're a bit thicker than some of the other guys.
And I think that plays a big part because, I mean, you hit the ground, your muscles act as a pad almost. They hurt, they get sore, but they can absorb some of that, and they hold you together.
That's what Brad Sims had always said. He's like, the more muscle I have, the less it hurts when I slam. I mean, he takes big slams too, but he's such a big guy that he's like, I mean, if you work out, you take care of yourself, and you have a little bit more muscle, it makes it a little bit easier.
That's what K-Rob always did back in the day. Remember how big he was? He was like, if you work out harder, you slam harder, you can get back up. And he used to slam.
Yeah.
His problem was he didn't have enough muscle around his brain.
Well, yeah.
So he would get knocked out, and then that was his issue, was his concussions. But
of course. I mean, a lot of those, the vert riders, the pioneers, those guys paid that ultimate, that price with their health, with hitting their heads so many times and everything. And I remember Miron, tell me stories about getting lost in his neighborhood and things like that. And it was always terrifying. But you think these guys really paid a huge price to progress the sport, and we're all forever thankful. But it's definitely it's scarier now knowing what we know about head injuries in particular. We can stop talking about injuries now. Yeah. It's a fact of what we do, though, right?
Yep.
I guess that's a good segue into my next thing. You're a family man now.
Yeah.
Wife, you have a son.
Yeah.
Does having a family in any way act as a governor to the way that you ride? Do you think about things a little bit more now, knowing that hey, I have a family, I have other things that I need to think about?
Yeah, it does change your perspective on things, because I'm responsible to provide for them, and if I take myself out, then I can't provide. So that is definitely in the back of my head. As far as, and this goes back to what we were talking about calculated risk. I don't try something unless I am pretty dang positive I can do it. So when it comes to mega ramp stuff, I'm not, nothing I do on that ramp is something that's out of my wheelhouse. Even though it may seem wild and crazy or whatever the first time I try it or whatever, it's not that I can't do it. It's that it's just pushing the limits of what I can do potentially. And I do think about that. A prime example, the first year in Minneapolis, I think that was the year that I did a 35-foot swan dive to my peg on my sternum. And like, dude, it sucked. I just did. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a safety run, and I did my safety run. It was just, I don't even remember. I think I did a three flip no hander to like a double whip, and I slipped the pedal and I got a little squirrely, but it wasn't like I didn't touch the ramp, but I slipped the pedal and just kind of sat down, and like it wasn't like clean. And they had made a point of saying that they wanted to see us ride clean. The judges had said in the meeting. So I was like, oh. So I was like, oh, that was a good run though, And like I saw some of the other guys do like much less as far trick-wise and height-wise. And they got like way higher scores. And I was like, when the score came back, I was like, oh, okay. I'm glad I know where we stand. That means I've got to stick that clean. I didn't take it as an insult or I got ripped off. It was nothing like that. I was just like, okay. I was looking at the other guys. I was like, okay, yeah, they did this, and this, but they were smoother, so that's why. Like, cool. I know where we stand. So I came back, and next run, I just like biffed the jump and just slid out, And I was like, okay, well, I got 2 left. Third round, I was like, okay, let's get like that safety run cleaned up and get a better score. So I was like, all right, 3 flip no hander, double whip. On the second whip, I kicked the tire, and the whip stopped. I don't know if you remember this or not, but like it just stopped, and it was like a 22-foot air, and I just went, yee, with the bike like backwards, like in the wrong spot, and I was just like augering in, like kind of like face first because of the angle I was at when I kicked the bike. So I tried to throw the bike to get away from it, but instead I threw it straight under me, and I was like, oh no! So now I'm like rolling the windows down. The bike lands, and I land on the bike. The peg hits, and I land literally like laying on top of the bike, and the peg went right into my sternum. And I just hit and just slid for a little ways and stopped. And it hurt so bad. But they had been like, that was when the whole like concussion thing was really fresh on everyone's head because of the stuff that was going on around that time. And they were like, anytime like Michael fell and like just like bopped his head a little bit, his helmet, he wasn't even like jacked up, but he bopped his helmet, and they were like, they ran out there and they were like holding his head, and they were like, okay, do the thing, remember these numbers, blah, 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 say the alphabet backward, like, and it was just like, holy crap. And they like didn't let him like get up, and I was just like, I didn't hit my head, they're gonna run over here and basically like just hold me down and be a pain in the butt. And I was like, I'm all right, I think. Right. But I was like, I can breathe, whatever. So I just stood up and I waved and I walked off and just suppressed it all. The pain wise, I was just like, oh, I'm good. I just walked off, went around the corner, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that was, I was like, Michael, if you talk to Michael, I walked around, I saw him, and I was like, I'm dying right now. Because like I had like this hitting the sternum and everything hurt. And I was just like, oh, I think I might have cracked some ribs. Like this just sucks. And then I was like, well, crap. And I kind of got my wits back about me. I was like, all right, I'm taking my last run. And I went up to the top, and I was like, man, like, I'm literally sitting in last place right now. Like, and I was like, I have to make money at this contest so that we can pay our bills. And in my head, I was like, man, I'm looking down, I see Natalie and Cotter down there. And I was just like, I literally like have a choice to make. I can either do the run that I wanted to do to try to win the contest right now, which would have been like triple whip or whatever it was, which was rolling the dice, because that trick is kind of like hit or miss with me. It was like, it might happen. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, like that type of thing. I could do it, but if one thing's off, I'm probably gonna like slip a pedal or whatever and blow it. I can either do that, or I can do another safety run. And I know I won't win the contest. I might make top 3, but probably not. But it'll be better than last place. And I literally made the choice at the top that I was just going to take another safety run. And it was like, that was one of those moments where I literally, like, having Cotter, down there, and Natalie and the whole family dynamic, I literally made a choice based on that.
Okay.
Not to roll the dice and try to go for the glory, it was either all or nothing. That was definitely in my head, like a game, like a kind of a game-changing moment, because it was one of the first times where I had to literally make that decision, and I did it, and I was like, you know what? And anything's better than last place right now. I'm going to try to move up in the scale a little bit. I'm not going to win with this run, but I'm just going to do it, and
What place did you end up?
Fourth.
Fourth. Okay.
I was less than a point out of medals,
Still pretty good.
which was pretty good. And I did the same run. I did the 3-flip no-hander to a 21-foot double whip, I think, and I landed smooth and like
no big deal.
And then afterwards, I was like, "Oh, my chest!" Somehow, I made it through that.
Did you break your sternum?
No, I didn't. I just bruised ribs, which is worse than breaking ribs. But
I broke my sternum a few years ago.
oof,
It was unpleasant, to say the least. There's nothing they can do. It's like a rib, you know. Like they're like, okay, well, good luck. Come back in 6 weeks. We'll let you know if it's healed. And it's like, okay.
I thought I broke my sternum one time in Amsterdam at that frame reactions contest, that Red Bull thing that Nate Nate was doing, where the ramps were moving, and I did the whole like chest plant on the upper deck, trying to jump it backwards. You remember that?
Yeah.
Broke a 2x4 with my chest, and I was like, ugh. It was like 13 feet up. I jumped. I missed the jump. Whatever. Ribs, sternum to 2x4, broke it, and then I fell 13 feet in the air to flat on my back.
Oh God.
And of course, the medic runs up. "Are you okay? Can you breathe?" And I'm just like, like, stop talking to me. But like, nothing broke. So whatever. The board broke.
Yeah, of course.
Broke a 2x4.
Yeah, you usually like do more damage to the ramps than yourself. I
got nothing on Jake Brown. Jake Brown broke a 4x4.
Oh my gosh.
And all he did was like sprain his wrist.
He's like a little bowling ball.
Dude.
That dude's wild.
Jake's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Jake.
He's a super nice guy, but he's definitely a tweaker a little bit.
Definitely.
In my interview that I did with Biz, he said the hardest part about getting older and trying to stay at a certain level is not having a lot of people his age that want to like ride at the level that he wants to ride at. Do you find that to be a problem at all?
I'm yes and no. I mean, I do a lot of shows.
Okay.
I do a lot of shows.
How much time do you spend like on the road doing shows?
This year, I've been gone almost as much as I've been home.
Oh wow. Okay.
Every year, I feel like BMX is slowing down, and every year I'm gone more. Like it keeps going. Now I do more shows than I do. I used to do more contests than shows, and now that's kind of like flipped.
Yeah.
But it's okay because I've always done shows. Like that's one thing I think a lot of people think if you turn into a show rider, you're washed up or you're no longer a competitive rider, and 100% that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Because I've been doing shows since day one, and I love doing shows, and I think doing shows makes you consistent and helps you ride in front of a crowd and helps you kind of cultivate your personality while riding in front of people. Because you're just showing off what you've got a talent at, you know, and you take that to a competition setting, and it's exactly the same. You're showing off what you got talent at. And on top of that, you get to do tricks. Now, it depends what your attitude is while you're doing shows. My attitude is I like to do all the tricks that I want to do in a contest. Stuff I want to be dialed at, I do them in shows every day. Like 720s, to me, are 360s. I can do a 720 the same as a 360 because I do them so often in shows. And like I'll do a school show for a bunch of like 3rd, 4th graders, and I'll do 720s in the show. Like, I don't care. Like, it's fun. I want to do those tricks. Like, that's like how I ride. So that helps you kind of maintain those skills as far as that goes. And it's you know, there's the whole like riding with friends, like we were talking about with Biz, like there's that, but then doing shows, you're riding for people the same way, but different because it's not a session, it's a show. I don't I don't have a ton of sessions anymore with like, because I don't have a good skate park where I live. So there's not like a good scenario to have just a rowdy session with a bunch of dudes. Now I do, you know, travel and stuff, and I'll get to go ride and have sessions and whatnot. But usually the reason the session happens is because I hit dudes up that I haven't seen in a long time and that, you know, are saying, you know, the same thing that you're talking about, like that will make for a good session.
Gotcha.
Or show up at, you know, Pat Casey's house and ride his ramp, and like that's just a loony bin in the nicest of all ways that could possibly be taken. That's a compliment. Like it's amazing over there, but like And that'll push your riding too, just being around those dudes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've only been there once and it was amazing. I'd love to go back sometime.
Same here. Last time I was there, I was hurt, so I couldn't ride. But like Dennis was there and Pat Casey's there, and it's like, geez, these guys are.
Pat Casey at his own house?
Well,
Weird.
I can imagine though, like, you never know, like there could be people riding, he's just kind of hanging out, meaning he was actually riding the rig.
Right.
But yeah, that's interesting what you say about shows, because I look at a guy like Dave Volker. Did shows into his late 40s, maybe even his 50s. I don't know, but like he was so dialed. I remember Brian Castillo telling me about Volker doing shows, and he's like, yeah, Volker will still 180 the box jump at a show. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, for like elementary school kids, he's 180ing an entire box jump, and he's like in his late 40s. He's just so dialed. He's done it for so long. He's, every day he's doing his hardest tricks.
Yeah.
So it's like nothing for him. It's like second nature. I think he's recently retired from the show scene. But I mean, what a way to like.
Yeah.
What a way to like. I don't want to say go out, because he's still around. He's still riding bikes.
Yeah.
But like, from what I'm told, he was like, he's done doing shows. I was like, wow, I never thought he'd be done. I thought like, him and Dennis McCoy would be going into like their 60s, doing stuff like that. But that's interesting what you say about shows and how you're able to maintain that level by doing shows. Plus, and the importance of shows, like kids seeing that you're in front of so many kids. I don't know how many shows you do like per week, but I mean like they're at that formative age where like, whoa, I want to do that. Like that's so important for our industry. And you yourself, didn't you get into BMX because you went to a show at the Texas State Fair and you saw Matt Hoffman?
Sprocket jockeys, yeah.
Dude, like case in point, like the importance of shows in the BMX industry
100%.
Is so huge.
How can you argue with you're making kids smile? They're having a blast watching you ride. They're excited. They're having a good time, and someone gives you a paycheck for riding your bike.
Yeah.
How can you like be too good for that? Or think you're like above that because you're a pro comp rider or whatever. Like that blows me away when I hear like of guys that like won't lower themselves to do a show. I'm just like, are you out of your mind?
I don't know if that's such a problem anymore. Maybe it is and I don't know about it, but now like it's tough to make it as like a pro contest rider. Even a pro like video type guy, but like nowadays, I feel like people are way more willing to do shows. It's like, whoa, I can actually like make a few bucks riding my bike. Cool. And like they'll do it. But like, I don't know, like do tour years, people are like, I don't need to do shows anymore. But you forget about the importance of it.
Right.
And I mean, it's nice to make a couple bucks on the side as well.
I did shows all through those years. When I was home, I was doing shows. When I was on the road, I was doing contests. Home shows. Like it was just like trading off.
Just a workhorse. Can't get enough.
That's like riding bikes, man.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
If people are going to give me money to do it, why not?
Yeah. Now, how long do you think you'll keep it rolling?
I don't know.
No end in sight? Just as long as you're enjoying it?
It's open-ended.
Okay.
It's open-ended. I think I've said this before, like, oh, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But that's really not true. Like, you have to work sometimes, and sometimes you don't want to ride. And honestly, like, I think that's the difference between a true professional is how you ride when you don't want to.
How you ride when you don't want to or don't have to?
You don't want to.
Okay.
For instance, if there's a contest going on and you're not there, it's like you're not feeling it, whatever. You don't want to ride, but you have to perform. How do you perform when you don't want to perform? Or if there's a show, or you're booked to do like a fair or something like that, or school shows, and like you just don't feel like you're riding that day, but you have to ride that day. So it's like how you perform when you don't want to is the difference, I think, between an actual professional and someone that I would consider an amateur, even if they're in the professional status, because it's like you need to be able to compose yourself and do what you do, even if you don't want to do it. It's kind of like step up and be a man and do it anyway, because like what you were talking about, kids see that, and that could be changing a kid's life. Mm-hmm. That could be the thing that makes that kid want to become a pro BMXer, and they might be the next, the next kid that pops up out of nowhere and is killing it.
Yeah, the next phenom or something.
Yeah, whatever. And like sometimes it is work. sometimes I don't want to ride, but I know I have to ride, so I do it. And like at the same time, it's still better than an office job, a 9-to-5 office job. How can you argue with that?
Better than sitting in that cubicle.
Yeah.
And your wife Natalie, does she still ride BMX at all?
Nah, she hasn't ridden in a while.
Okay.
Quite a while. She's
But-
more concerned with what she's doing for work now.
So being that she did ride BMX, she definitely understands like your passion and your need to be on your bike and everything. I think that's really important to have a spouse that is just as supportive of you as you are of her. I think that's. I just say that because I've known Natalie now. I've known her almost as long as I've known you.
Probably about the same. I mean,
maybe by like a year or so. I met her.
Weren't you at that same Metro Jam I met her at? 05?
I came to
Vancouver?
Oh yeah, I was at that one.
Blue Ramps.
Yes. Yeah.
That was where I met her.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. On. And yeah, they had the women's class at the Metro Jam. Yeah.
That was the first like girls class. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I really don't have much else. I think we covered a lot of ground. And is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything you feel like we didn't cover?
I mean, I don't know. Not off the top of my head, man.
Well, what Morgan and I are about to do comes from the scene from Predator when Arnold Schwarzenegger walks in and he sees his friend
Dylan.
And him and Dylan have to flex on each other for a little bit. So, Morgan, I thank you so much, and I appreciate being a part of my podcast.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. The only thing missing is like maybe you can add in like rippling like leather, like
the scene. I mean, they just hold for like a couple seconds.
What's the matter, Dylan? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils.
Perfect way to end it.
Take it easy on yourself, Dutch.